Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen from Gaper, and I'm here today with Sepi Biddle, the founder of Inclusive Recruiters. Good afternoon, Sepi.
Good afternoon.
How you doing
Thanks for
today?
having me.
Yeah, you're
I'm
welcome.
doing good. Really good.
That's good.
How are you doing?
Good. Actually, this is my first podcast I'm doing from the East Coast. I normally do them from California, and today I'm on the East Coast, so this is my first one. We're actually on the
This is
same time.
my first podcast ever. So
Okay, so it's a first for both of us. That's great.
yeah.
So to start with, can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm the founder and diversity recruiter at Inclusive Recruiters. I'm originally from Iran. I've traveled quite a far way to be here now in Toronto. So I lived in Iran for a while, then I lived in Dubai after, then I moved to New York City, and now I'm in Toronto, where Inclusive Recruiters is based out of. And yeah, that's all really.
Wow, well, that's quite a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
Middle East, one of the largest cities in the world, and my personal opinion, the nicest city. People in Vancouver
Nice.
might argue with that, but I do like Toronto.
I'm glad to hear that.
So what has been your experience with remote employment, both as an employee and an employer?
So I've been remote now for over 2.5 years. So I have clients based in Canada and the US, mostly based in San Francisco and Toronto, obviously because of the market. Honestly, I've loved it so much being remote, but I feel like also it's because of the nature of my work, I don't feel isolated. I'm constantly on the phone. I'm always chatting with people on different channels. So I've enjoyed it, but I do hear when people say, I understand when people say, oh, it's very isolating, it's very lonely. I don't quite feel like that. So I've enjoyed it a lot. I've had the opportunity to partner with a lot of great people. So it's been great. In terms of hiring remote talent, I actually haven't really hired a lot of remote talent just because even if someone is remote right now, the plan for them is to eventually join wherever my client is based in the future. So yeah, I haven't really hired a lot of people to stay remote.
And interesting, since you're 3 hours ahead of San Francisco, do you take a lot of 7 and 8 o'clock calls your time?
You'll be surprised. So many people are more than happy to like take a call before they go to work.
Mm-hmm.
So I take a lot of calls, like a normal hour for me, super early for them. And I always tell them, like, you guys, I can open up extra hours later on my calendar. Like, no, this is better actually. So it works out.
It's funny because when you live in San Francisco, you generally either have to leave early to beat the traffic or be late. So
yeah,
that's probably why they're in their car all night when they're talking to you.
Yeah, they're like, let's just talk. I mean, I'm here anyway. You're awake, so let's do it.
Yes. So what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think can be done differently to make it more effective?
I think right now, especially with my clients, I'm seeing in the beginning, let's say 2 years ago when I was starting out, people were like, no, we're not looking for remote. We definitely want people who are on site 100%. And there wasn't even a discussion around it at the time. But now I'm seeing people just being a little more open to it. They're like, well, if you find someone who's still like, if the client is in the US, if you find someone in the US, anywhere in the US, that's totally fine. Same with Canada. So I'm seeing people being more open to it. I'm not sure if not everyone is quite ready for, let's say, someone who is 12 hours on the other side of the planet right now. But I think it's definitely going to be something that people are going to be more open to and more interested in, because it shows now that a lot of companies can operate remotely if they have the right infrastructure in place.
And you do strictly recruiting. You don't do contract to hire, correct?
Yes, I do recruiting. So I do full-time hires. Yeah.
Okay, and that brings me to my next question. What is the story behind Inclusive Recruiters? How did you get started? Who's your typical customer? Things like that.
So just like my location, how I detoured a lot in my life, my experience is the same pattern. So I started in recruiting in 2011. That was like my first job outside of university. I kind of fell into it complete accident, just like I feel like how most people fall into their first role out of university, and I loved it. But back then I was hiring finance and accounting professionals in the Middle East, and I had a really good time and it was going really well, but that was the first job ever. And also it wasn't my original intention, I guess, with my career. And I was a finance major originally, so I thought to myself I should go back and maybe explore. If I was going to explore that at some point, it would, I mean, now would be the best time to do it. So I detoured for about 5 years into accounting and finance. I'm so glad I did it because, well, for one, it made me realize that, you know, I still like recruiting way more. And also it taught me so many things now that helps me, you know, run a small business by myself without needing like the help of an accountant. So that's how that happened. And then I was in Toronto and still doing accounting, and I was just waiting for like the right moment to go back to recruiting. So I had two options. One, go out on my own, or go back to a traditional agency and continue doing what I was doing before. I didn't want to go back to a traditional agency just because I don't know how much you know about a lot of the older, bigger agencies, but they're pretty much only money focused.
Yes.
There's not a lot of room to make, you know, to do things the way you want. I wanted to recruit with, you know, a mission in mind, focusing on diversity, being able to pick the people that I work with, making sure they're actually like good clients with good intentions. So that's why I went out on my own and I started Inclusive Recruiters.
Ah, very interesting. So you don't really, I mean, you don't really have remote at your company. You are the remote employee, correct?
I am the remote, yeah.
Are there any other employees?
Nope, not right now.
So you actually just were remote by, I mean, just the fact that half of your customers are, you know, 3 hours or not 3 hours, 3,000 miles away, right?
Yeah, even my clients that are based in Toronto, I don't necessarily go and hang out, like work at their office every day either. It's just kind of like we have a meeting and then I go and do my work and then we communicate through email and video. It's really the same thing.
Wow. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years. It's actually nice. And I don't think Toronto has the traffic that San Francisco has, but you have to have some traffic.
Yes, and I think that's one of the things that I had to kind of adjust to very early on. I thought that I was going to be only supporting the Toronto market, and then I just kept seeing that I'm getting drawn towards the San Francisco market. There's just so much to do there. So I just have to adjust and make sure that I, you know, get my piece of the pie from California as well.
And when you say San Francisco, is it the city of San Francisco or is it Silicon Valley?
Mostly the city, but I also did some work like in LA, in the greater LA area as well. Yeah. Okay. I mean, honestly, wherever there's a opportunity, I can really go because it doesn't matter.
True. Have you thought of going overseas at all?
Like recruiting in like Europe?
Yeah.
I've thought about it, but I feel like because I'm one person, I don't want to take on something that I'm like not familiar with, and also something that might, you know, I feel like when you focus on too many things, the quality might change. So I just want to stick to the markets that I know of really well. So
okay, well, great. So in the current situation with the ongoing pandemic, everyone had to go remote, basically mid-March, the whole world. Did that cause any roadblocks or challenges that you didn't expect, or anything for your customers that they didn't expect?
So I actually didn't clarify. So I hire a lot of talent within the tech industry. So my clients, as you can imagine, they are all doing fine because they were all set up to be remote or on-site, regardless of a pandemic or not. So no, it didn't really cause any problems there. But I do see how I was seeing so many issues with other industries, like, you know, educational institutions with teachers having to teach online now, and all those things. Just makes it so hard when you're not prepared for it ahead of time. So I feel like there has to be a lot of money spent ahead of time on building like the right infrastructure, making sure every kid and every teacher has like the right equipment, and also training. Like it's totally different to be teaching in class and then teaching over a computer the next day, like with no warning.
Yes.
So yeah, it did not, thankfully it didn't affect any of my clients, just because they were already small tech startups.
Oh, okay. Interesting, because there's companies like Gaper, and we're kind of in the other side of that same business. We don't place people. We fill short-term needs. We're more of a contract place. You know, you'll hire 5 developers for 6 to 12 months, and then they'll build something for you. So how important do you think that's going to be going forward? Because obviously what you do is important. How important do you think it's going to be for the other side of it, especially for startups that need talent quickly, but they don't need it. They don't need to have employees.
Yeah. Honestly, I think there's definitely a market for it, because not every startup, regardless of where they're based, has the funds to hire a very expensive software engineer based in San Francisco or New York City or even Toronto. So I think it gives the opportunity for a lot of small businesses to scale. So definitely something that is, very useful. But again, I'm sure it has a lot of challenges as well. So you kind of need both types of people kind of working out there.
Yeah, and do you actually recruit talent from the local San Francisco market, like Berkeley and Stanford and those colleges?
Yes. Yes.
So you know their salaries.
Yes. I'm very, very aware of the salary. It's not that the cost of living is just really expensive. So the more expensive the city, the more expensive the talent. And not everyone can afford to do that. Like, not every company has funding necessarily at an early stage, so they can't afford someone making a lot of money to build their software for them.
Yeah. And I think that we're more at that end of it, and you're more at, I think, probably when they get established, now they want to hire people that they want to make a career out of, right?
So the one thing that I feel like a lot of my clients are looking for, I don't know, maybe you share your experience and tell me if it's the same, but a lot of my clients, other than looking for, let's say, a solid software engineer with a specific technology experience, they're looking for a specific person and like a personality to make sure that that person is a cultural fit long term. So they want to basically make sure that this person is going to be here for, let's say, 3 years is a long time for any company, any person in a company in San Francisco. I know it doesn't sound like a long time.
No, you're right. It's absolutely true.
Yeah, that's like the maximum, I feel like. So that's where I come in to make sure that they are going to be a cultural fit. And that's something that a lot of them care about. So they want to basically screen a candidate from the moment they walk through the doors to see if they say hi to the receptionist, if they take them for a coffee and they are nice to the waitress or the waiter, because all these like little things are part of the interview, even though people might not realize. So those are the things that, they want to focus on in addition to just, I'm good at writing code.
Yeah, and we're more the opposite. I shouldn't say the opposite, but we're more we provide really good talent. But the thing we do is we make sure that they have the right mental aptitude to work remotely, because it's not everybody can do it.
Different. Exactly. Not everyone can do it. I always tell everyone, I wish I could say remote work is effective for everybody, but it's just not. Some people are not good at it, and that's fine.
Right. Well, and plus your life situation. Some people might be good at it, but if they have, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old at home, that does make it a little difficult.
Climbing behind them.
Yes.
Totally. Yeah, I totally understand. Yeah, it's not for everyone. That's completely fine.
Yeah, I personally like it. I don't think I would have liked it in my 20s, but I do like it now. But we're all different.
It's true. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So Sepi, I want to thank you for your time today. This has been very informative, and have a great day. And it's getting it's only 1:30 here. Still got a half a day to go.
Yeah, half a day to go. Thank you for having me. Like I said, it was my first podcast, so it's awesome.
You came off like a pro.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.